The first question is, what is it like being a white woman in Korea?
It wasn't necessarily like I was being seen as a partner or somebody who was a part of the group or the conversations that were being had. I was just there as kind of an object or a trophy to show.
What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'll be asking people, what is it like being a white woman in Korea? Where are you from and how long have you been in Korea?
Yeah, I came from Russia, and in Korea I'm like more than a year, maybe a year and a half.
This is my fourth time.
Fourth time.
So every time I went here, it was for vacation, and this time it was for studying. So it's different for me now.
So I'm originally from Canada and I've been in Korea on and off for about 3 years. This is my third year.
Oh, third year. That's pretty long time.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
So how's been your experience in Korea so far, as a foreigner or as a resident here?
So I can only talk about my experiences, but I can say that my experiences have been predominantly more positive than they have been negative. So yeah, I would say that that's the reason why I stay and why I'm currently pursuing my long-term residency visa here.
You said it's pretty positive. So what do you think is the best thing about living in Korea?
Something that I personally really like and appreciate is the safety factor. I think a lot of times people take for granted how safe it is here. Of course, there's bad all around the world, but for me personally, I feel comfortable walking home alone at night, and that's something I would never be able to do in my home country.
Oh, even in Canada?
Yeah, even in Canada, there's good and bad places everywhere. Yeah.
I like Korea really much. For me, wasn't like a lot of troubles. I just love Korea very much. Everything is so cool. So yeah, I'm very satisfied.
It's kind of hard because I'm not fluent in Korean. I can just like order something or ask where is bathroom. So it's sometimes really hard with the language barrier. But I feel like every time I struggle, there is someone to help me out. So that was great.
So today's topic is living in Korea as a white woman. The first question is, what is it like being a white woman in Korea?
So, I mean, of course, being a white woman anywhere in the world, you obviously get favoritism just based on the fact that you are white. That's an indisputable fact. But I would say that it's even more prevalent in a place like Korea where they do celebrate, people who are of a lighter skin tone or of a Caucasian race as comparatively to other nationalities. So for me, I definitely experienced that and have seen that experience through my friends as well.
Can you say it a little bit more specifically? How Korean people treat white people better?
Yeah. So something that I personally experience is that random people will sometimes come up on the street and they'll like, oh, so pretty, so pretty. And I know that it has less to do about me and how I look and more to do with the fact that I'm just white. So I think that's something that I've experienced more often here than I would have back home. So that's one thing. Another thing I also know for me personally, a lot of jobs come easier to people who are of a Caucasian race here. People in different industries prioritize hiring people who are Caucasian as comparative to other races, unfortunately.
Could you give me examples? What kind of jobs?
I think, again, I can't speak on any specific jobs. I just know in different work environments that I have friends in, such as the modeling or entertainment industry, as well as even the teaching academies, they do tend to want to have teachers who appear more foreign as opposed to hiring somebody who may look Korean to teach English because it goes over better with the parents, supposedly.
For me, to be honest, I don't really see a big difference between me and other people. Maybe slightly a little bit, but it's really certain things. For example, when you're going to clubs, you may expect some other or attitude towards you.
Only in certain places, certain situations.
Yes, maybe sometimes when I'm studying at university and we have to do our group project, I notice that my answers, maybe because not I'm just white woman, just because I'm a foreigner, my answers are not really being treated in the right way by other people because they don't pay enough attention to my words and stuff. Just because probably they think that because of I'm a foreigner, I'm studying in another city, another country, I might not understand things properly and stuff. Or when you're going to clubs, for example, I noticed that in some places, because of I'm a foreigner, people want to see me inside. They want like to give me a free cocktails and stuff. And in some places, because of this, they don't like I'm not allowed because I'm a foreigner. But it's more like being a foreigner, you're not a white woman.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of funny because when I was here before COVID-19, I felt like foreigners were more welcomed here. This time I feel kind of pressure. I don't know.
Pressure.
Yeah, maybe it's because like there are more foreigners here now than I was here for the first time in 2017. I haven't met almost any foreigners that time. So maybe that's the difference, that they got used to foreigners and I don't feel the love anymore.
Like before, like you got a lot of attention
Yes.
compared to now.
Yes, a lot of attention.
And do you think they treat you better than other like non-white people?
Probably sometimes, because like as far as I know, if I was, I don't know, Arabic or Indian, I would be treated less normally.
I never noticed it, but I don't want to say that they aren't. For me, I didn't see it, but maybe it's happening. It's hard to say from my point of view.
And also, like as you know, like Korean people prefer lighter skin or white skin. So a lot of people say that Korean men prefer white people more than like non-white people, and they get into a relationship faster.
When I arrived, I definitely saw that my white friends got much more attention and started relationships faster than me and my non-white friends as well. So I think that's one thing to notice.
So do you think it's true?
It's true that what I've seen, like some international couples, like Korean and some girls, it's always white girls. So maybe that's true.
When you walk on the street,
Yes.
like 95% of international couple is like white woman and Korean men.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very obvious. Right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they get into relationships faster. I would actually say that a lot of the times people will get into relationships, especially with Caucasian or white women, and they don't necessarily see them as serious partners. And comparatively to like dating a Korean person, a lot of the times if you are dating a white person as a Korean man in this situation, you're seen more as like a short-term option, because a lot of people don't see white women as being marriage potential because of family issues or just other things like that. Yeah.
So they want to experience
Yes.
white people and they want to enjoy, but at the end they're gonna marry with Korean woman, right?
Yeah, that's what I would say from what I've seen, and I've watched my friends go through and experiences like that. I know that there's people who've been on dates countless times and they're like, oh, but it's not serious because I couldn't date you because you're not Korean. Yeah, so
It depends on the kind of relationship, because like if you really want a true and loving relationship with person, I think it's kind of harder for white people, because Koreans just like see us like entertainment. Yeah, some kind of things. We can date, we can, I don't know, like spend some time together and stuff. If we're talking about serious relationships, it's really hard to find someone who would treat you properly and like see a future wife, for example, in you.
Okay, then the next question is, do you think like Korean people have stereotypes of white women?
Yeah, like white women are so open-minded. We wanna like enjoy spending time with them. That stuff maybe. Some people say that white women are more beautiful than Korean girls, but for me that's bullshit.
Bullshit?
Yes.
Why?
I mean, like Koreans are so pretty. I mean, for me, girls are just beautiful. I go out the streets and I see them and like, wow. So
Like everybody thinks that when girls come to Korea, all guys automatically think they come because of K-pop. I think that's like normal to think.
yeah, I would definitely say as such. And That's not to the fault of Korean people. I think a lot of people forget that Korea is a mostly homogenous society.
Yeah.
And it's only in the past decade or so that foreigners have come over and started experiencing Korea. And Korea history has a very, very hard time with getting invaded. So it makes sense as to why they try to stay homogenous as opposed to like letting foreigners in. But now that they are here, people are starting to get firsthand encounters with white people. Most of my students, I'm the first white person they've ever seen, let alone talk to in person. So when it comes to Korean men, I think they get exposed to a lot of Western culture, such as media, movies. Netflix has really opened up that platform. And unfortunately, the portrayal in Western media of women is very promiscuous. And that's not necessarily the case for everyone. But even if it is, like, that's their body, their choice. But unfortunately, it paints a picture of most women in a negative light. So if you've never seen a white person in like physical form or spoken to them or seen them, and your only exposure is through this movie that paints them in this light, the only rational impression you're going to have is that. So I think, yeah, that's just the way that it is. And unfortunately, until you have an encounter with a person who is of a different nationality or race, that's kind of just the way a lot of people see us.
Can you give me some example, like what kind of stereotype
Yeah.
Korean have?
For sure. So, I mean, I can only speak on my experience, but when I was dating a Korean person, unfortunately, when we would go out together, I felt like I wasn't necessarily so much of part of the conversations that were happening, but more I was just there as his white girlfriend. And it was like, look at my white girlfriend. I'm showing her off to my friends. It wasn't necessarily like I was being seen as a partner or somebody who was a part of the group or the conversations that were being had. I was just there as kind of an object or a trophy to show. Yeah. So that's like just my personal experience. So yeah. But it's not far off from what I've heard from others either. So.
And this is the last question. Do you have anything you want to say to people who want to come to Korea for a long-term living?
For sure. I would just say the best thing that you could possibly do is educate yourself. Don't come over here with fantasies or romantic ideas about what life will be here. Unfortunately, if you have problems at home, moving to Korea will not solve them. You will have maybe different struggles, but that does not mean that you're going to have any less difficulties than you will here than anywhere else in the world. So yeah, just educate yourself, and if you can, learn some Korean. Just one, it'll make life easier, and two, it's just kind of a respect thing. You know, you're in another country, you should know how to speak a little bit of their language to help people out. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is it for today's interview. Thank you so much for your time and have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, and you too.
You
Yeah.
too. Thank you.
Thank you.